Alright guys, so now we're going to try and put it all together. We're going to have to first identify what kind of conic this is, then we're going to write the equation in graph form, then graph it and label the center and foci. So notice the x squared and the y squared are both positive. Since they're both positive, that means it's going to ellipse. You'd have to have for it to be a hyperbola. So there was a 25 and a 25, and as in y squared were both being multiplied by the same factor, then it would actually be it would be a circle. With a center, obviously not at the origin because of these other terms. But this is going to be an ellipse, which we know because. So when we rearrange the terms, I'm going to complete this, write the equation of the ellipse. So we have 25x squared plus 50x, leave a little space, plus a 9y squared minus a 54y. And then I'm going to add this 119 to the other side. Just get it out of the way, and then whatever I add to one side, I got to add to the other. So I'll do that when I complete my squares. Now to complete the squares, you can't do that until the coefficient is 1. Alright, so you've got to factor out this 25 here. Leaves you with an x squared plus 2x. And you've got to factor out this 9 here as well. So that's going to be a plus a 9 factored out is y squared, and 9 times 6 is 54, so minus a 6y. Notice I left the space for completing the square. So what do I have to add? I got to add to both sides whatever I add, and half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1. But I didn't just add a 1 to this side. I actually added, this 25 would have to get distributed, so I actually added 25 to this side. And then here, to complete the square, you do half of negative 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. But I didn't actually just add a 9. I added a 9 times this 9, which is an 81. So then we've got a 25. This now factors. The whole reason I did that was to factor it to x plus 1 squared. Now it's starting to look like my generic formula. And then we have a times 9 times y minus 3 squared equals 119 plus 81 is 200 equals 225. So now to get myself in my final form here, divide everything by 225, and we're going to end up with a 25 goes into 225 9 times. So that's going to be an x plus 1 squared over 9. 9 goes into this 25 times, so we get a y minus 3 squared over 25. That's what this reduces to, equals 1. Now these don't have to be whole numbers all the time, but it's just easier for us to design problems to teach you where I can crunch the numbers in my head. So our center is going to be at the opposites of these numbers, so it's negative 1, positive 3. Negative 1 up 3. There's the center of our ellipse. And then the foci we need to find, which satisfy this relationship. C squared equals A squared minus B squared. Now since this is bigger, it's going to be an downy ellipse. And this is going to equal 25 minus 9 is our c squared, so that equals 16, so c equals 4. So our focus is 4 units up, 4 units down, and then we got to do our a and our b. This is a squared, so since a squared equals 25, a equals 5. So there's 5 from the center, and then 5 down from the center gives us this, and then 4 over, or not 4, b squared equals 9, so b equals 3. So we're going to do 3 over, and there's our, 3 from the center. So there's 3 over, and there's our ellipse. Alright, so let's check this second one. Identify the conic. This is key here. Now, see how the y squared term is negative? Since this is negative, that means we have a negative squared term. That's going to be a hyperbola. If they were both negative, we could divide the whole thing through by a negative, and we'd have an ellipse or a circle. But this is going to be a hyperbola, and it's going to be a sideways opening hyperbola because the x squared is our positive term. So again, we're going to rewrite it, 9x squared. Now there's no other x term, so we know the center is going to have an x coordinate of 0. We know that already because there's no x minus anything else. And then minus 16y squared minus 32y. Move that 128. And it's okay that that's negative now. You can't end up with a negative there, but it's okay that it's negative now because we're going to complete that square. So we got 9x squared minus, now we factor out this 16, and that leaves us with a y minus 2y, or y squared minus 2y equals negative 128. So now we have to add something to both sides. Half of this is negative 1, negative 1 squared is 1, but really I added a 16 to both sides. And actually this is a negative 16 because the negative goes with that number. So the negative 16 times 1, got to add a negative 16 to both sides. So that gives me a 9x squared minus 16y minus 1 squared equals 128 minus 16 is negative 144. So now I divide everything by the negative 144. And that gives me 44 divided by 9. Alright, so that gives me, this reduces to a 1. Now this is actually my negative term, and this reduces to a 1 over 16. So we got a negative x squared over 16, and the negative over negative is positive, y minus 1 squared. 16 over 144 reduces to a 1 over 9. So that's over 9. So it actually opens up and down. So this was incorrect here. You got to, once you finally factor, write it all in the right form, this is our positive, so it's going to open up and down. And then, so this is our a squared. So or our b squared rather, because it's the non-major one. This is our a squared. So a is 3. Our center is at 0, 1. So 0, 1. We go up 3 for the vertex, down 3 for the vertex, and then, whoops, down 3 from the center, and then over 4 for our side of our box, over 4. And then we got to make those two asymptotes. There they are. So now our actual graph is from the vertex, then approaching that asymptote. From the vertex, and then approaching that asymptote. And then if we want to find the foci, we use the c squared equals a squared plus b squared in this case. So that's going to equal 9 plus 16 equals 25. So c equals 5. So from the center you go up 3, 4, 5. Then from the center go down 3, 4, 5. There it all is. Alright, if you got any trouble, watch the video again, play it back, pause it, email me, do whatever you got to do. See you tomorrow.